Good afternoon. I just want to, uh, uh, I want to introduce to you all out there to Quentin Blue. They are awesome three men that I spent much time with. And so I want to start with my right, and I want to introduce Dwight Krizman, uh, bass player, uh, drummer extraordinaire.
Thank you, Joey.
We have Richie Morris, or R3 as he likes to be referred to at times, and he is a prolific songwriter and guitar player and an awesome singer, and I'm not exaggerating. And then we have Billy Harwood, who's, I understand, is great keyboard player, and you're like a jack of all trades around the instruments.
And not a bad
thank
songwriter himself either. Very talented.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's right.
Well, I just it's an honor to see you guys. So yeah.
Joey, it's good to see you. And our MC for the day is Joey Mason. You didn't mention your name, Joey. Yay.
Yeah, Joey Mason.
Well, I figured I'd let you guys do that. Thank you.
Okay. Consider it done.
So Joey, why don't you give a little background of how the band assembled, and kind of just a little background on that.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with Dwight, because I've known him the longest, since 2000. And we were at Solano State Prison together, and we had an opportunity to play a little bit of music together. He was on another yard, and I would sneak over to the cafeteria, and I had an opportunity to play with him. And so, I mean, just, awesome. But as far as the band itself, it started at San Quentin State Prison, and Richie had brought the idea to Dwight and myself. I was also part of the band for a minute until they got sick of me, and then they said, you move on, Joey. It's time to
no. Was it that brutal?
There's nothing wrong with honesty.
No, it wasn't that brutal, but it was. But anyway, these guys every day would go down to the yard, and Dwight was the drummer at the time, and we called him Bucket Boy because that's all we had was buckets and drumsticks. And then they would all sit on their buckets, and they would rehearse every single day, at least 2 or 3 hours a day, just honing in their craft. And it was just a wonderful thing, because Richie kind of encouraged Dwight to start playing bass. And then Dwight took to that like a fish to water.
Love it.
But yeah, and these guys have done a lot of events, different celebrations, different graduations. They were invited to do a lot of that while in San Quentin, a lot of yard shows, a lot of like I think we did the Cancer Walk. You guys played for Cancer Walk.
Yeah.
You guys played for Day of Peace. Every chance they could get to give back in some way through music, that's exactly what they did. And I mean, I love these guys. And Bill, you know what? Because you're with them, they picked you to be in the band. I love you too, bro.
Thank you so much. It's mutual. Yeah. How's that new kitchen trash can going?
Oh yeah, you bought a house, huh, Joey?
And congratulations.
Yeah, Margie and Kristen, since the last time I saw you, because this really isn't about me, but I managed to buy a house.
Yay.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
By the grace of a higher power. And so
that is...
Your new nickname is Condo Joe.
Nice. I love it. Can we make a song about that?
Yeah, yes. That's the easy
Give
part.
me about 10 minutes.
Yeah, Richie will make a song about it for real. But yeah, so that's really the gist of these guys. And this was music, I know also for myself, was a big part of our healing, a big part of us really staying out of the mix, because there's a lot of different prison politics going on, and a lot of nonsense going on. And they managed, and we managed to stay out of it, which was wonderful. And to be honest with you, a lot of the guys of all races, they loved the music they were playing down there. They'd always, people would stop every day, regardless of where they come from, or, whatever their background was. And they stopped and they listened, and thumbs up most of the time. You know, there might have been a hater or two in the crowd, but
Sure.
not very often. It was always thumbs up.
They knew better than to mess with us.
That's right. That's right.
So I have
So
a
yeah, that's it.
question. So you mentioned, Dwight, that you took up the bass while you were after. So you had, I guess I wanted to know kind of about your background musically of what, did you all play instruments before and then added other instruments into your repertoire, or talk a little bit about your musical backgrounds?
Sure. So for me, I was a drummer way before prison, and for years made my living playing drums. And then I met my wife, and we had children, and responsibilities took over, and I had to get a real job. So put the instrument down for a while, and unfortunately, my life took a turn, bad decisions, bad lifestyle, poor choices, and I ended up in prison. And in prison, was able to re-engage with music and started playing drums for the various music programs, and eventually realized I really wanted to play another instrument as well and play bass. So during my prison time of almost 18 years, I learned bass. I was involved in the choir in the Catholic chapel and sang, and we did the masses. And then, of course, as Joey was saying, we were sitting on the yard in front of a brick wall, and because the only thing I had was a bucket to play on.
Studio 17.
Oh, Richie says the wall was called Studio 17 because one of us was in cell number 317. And
Who that could have been.
yeah, so I'm on this bucket with a pair of brushes, and Richie's on a guitar. And when Billy joined us, he was playing keyboard. There was a battery power, and we were just kind of sitting in the dust there. So I inherited the name Bucket Boy. And as the group progressed and guys came and went in our little lineup, we couldn't find anybody else to do buckets, so I ended up playing bass, and so whenever I can get a hold of a drum set, I'll play drums too. But that was wonderful for me to have all that musical experience, and I guess the bottom line is that doing time is no easy feat. There's a lot of politics, there's a lot of pressure in prison, and to be able to have a path of faith as well as music and creativity and meet guys that were really trying to do the right thing for the right reasons, and have music be a big part of that was awesome. So it really helped me be able to get through the time and come out the end of that tunnel in a whole lot better shape than when I went in. And our little story is, and these guys will probably talk a little more about that, but when we all got out of prison, Richie got out in early 2020. I got out about 6 months later. We both ended up in the same transitional program here in Los Angeles called the Francisco Homes. And one day I was walking out the front door, Richie's in a house down the street, and I look up in the window and there's Billy. And that was like a month later. So all of a sudden the three of us find ourselves in the same place at the same time. And we said, hey man, want to play?
You bet.
So that was like, for me, 9 months ago, about 16, 17 months ago for Richie. And
7 for me.
7 for you, Billy. And we've written a bunch more songs and recorded a bunch of songs. And I went to engineering school and been working through that. And so here we are. And so grateful that life took a turn that way. And how it all happened, we couldn't have figured it out. We couldn't have done it. You know, Richie's famous for saying there are no coincidences. So believe me, a little faith and all of this coming together is pretty amazing.
Yeah,
So that's kind of the story. I'll turn it over to one of you guys.
I was here for 2 days. I'm looking out we live in a duplex, seats downstairs. I'm upstairs. I'm looking at this part of Los Angeles and thinking, oh my goodness gracious, look where I am now. South Central Los Angeles with all its history. And over the time that I've been incarcerated, as with all of this, it has changed. It has changed. The area has improved. The demographics have changed. It's still a crazy place.
It's crazy.
So I'm looking down and I'm kind of lamenting, and I'm completely confused and bewildered, having just basically stepped out the gate at San Quentin in the middle of COVID. And I see this person walk across the front yard, and all I could say was, "Oh my God, it's you.
It's
Thank
me.
God you're here."
It's me. I look up at the window.
It was
So,
really,
It was cool.
he is a brother to me.
It was a cool. Bless your heart,
Yeah.
man. Bless your
And
heart.
then he goes, "Oh yeah, you think this is great? Richie lives right down the street."
And he said, "Oh,
Here we go again.
No.
Musically, when I was a kid, one day my dad came home. He owned a bunch of car dealerships, and he said, "I took a Hammond B3 organ in on trade back in the day when you could trade anything in, right?" And he goes, "Do you want to learn how to play it?" And I'm 8, and it's like, "Oh yeah, great, sure, why not?" So he dragged that thing home, and I started to play keyboards, and they've been my saving grace all my life.
I don't know if we can hear
They have
that.
always
It's
been
there.
something that I could turn to in times of trouble, depression, anxiety, whatever was troubling me, and transport me right out of my problems and into now I would look at it as somewhat like a Zen state. I'm a practicing Buddhist, but I took classical lessons. I was taught to sight read music, which has been a wonderful thing all my life. It's done me so well with bands and things because I can pick up a piece of music and read it, and I can play. I was not a songwriter for all those years, but I did play in bands in college, and I quit that when I started to work and turned away from music for decades. I was not a musician. I mean, I could sit down at a piano anytime and play, but it never hooked me, and didn't have the desire to actually get a piano and do that. But the way I was built as a kid and my life experiences took me to a place where I was narcissistic enough and selfish enough and hurt enough to hurt some other people, and was duly and rightly incarcerated with a life sentence. And when I hit prison, music came screaming back, because you get out on a yard and, like Joe said, politics are out there. There's good things happening and bad things happening, and you really have to seek out where the goodness is on a prison yard and find a way to fit in. And I met some guys that were singing and writing country songs, playing guitars. And I started to hang around with them, and I did not have a guitar, but their access to musical instruments at that time at Corcoran Prison was extremely limited, because the Arts and Corrections program, which was a rehabilitative program that was funded by the state, had basically been eviscerated. There was no money. They had eliminated the staff members that had been facilitating that program. They locked up all the band equipment. Literally, there was a room that I could walk by that had a glass panel in the door, and I could look in and see a half a dozen keyboards and a bunch of guitars and amps and an acoustic drum set. And I felt bad for that equipment because it was locked up just as much as I was.
Prison.
And it took us years to get to a point where we could convince the administration that a music program would be a positive influence. But in that time, just so that I could play keyboards, I started to attend the Catholic Church, thinking, foolish me, that if I could just get near the keyboards and provide them with a little bit of music, that I'd have all this time to play what I wanted to play. And then I learned that to support a real Catholic Mass, you've got a whole lot of work to do every week.
Yeah.
Liturgical music and hymns, and it all changes every week. You can go to a Protestant service and hear the same half a dozen hymns that everybody knows, and it's real easy. But in the Catholic Church, the choir and the musicians are working musicians.
Yeah, we were.
But it was such a wonderful place. The Catholic Church was a safe place in prison and provided a lot of opportunity. But my friends on the yard were, well, you can't get near keyboards, so you need to get a guitar. And I thought, what? But I realized I had experience. I had the ability to read music. I understand music theory. So all I would have to do would be just learn how to play a particular instrument. I wouldn't have to learn everything else. So I picked it up pretty quick. I love it. Guitar is your best friend. You know, kind of competes with my best girlfriend keyboard.
Yeah.
But music did for me something in prison that it didn't do for me when I was on the street. And I was a very closed off person, a very self-centered person. And when I started to play on the yards, the appreciation Joe mentioned of the people on the yard, prison yard can be a very lonely, lonely place.
Yeah.
You might have 1,500 people out there, but you can still be all alone. And I learned that if you're out there and you're putting your heart in your music and you're playing on the yard, that so many people out there love that. It becomes important to them too. They come by, they stop, they appreciate what you're doing. They may be all about, can you play me this song or play me that song? But if you write good songs, you'll get someone, you'll get a hook in them when they go by.
Yeah.
And that's what Quentin Blue's music did to me when I ended up in San Quentin. I was out walking on the yard. The first 2 weeks I was at San Quentin, and here these guys were, and I walked up and I said, hey, you wouldn't mind if I just sit down here and listen for a while? I was carrying my guitar, and I might have been close enough to actually be playing my guitar. And at that time I was horrible. Oh, man. So when I walked up and asked, I think Richie looked at me like, sure, kid, sure, you can sit by and listen to us play. Just put that guitar down. Soon enough, though, I was invited in and blessed for it.
Man, we were too, Billy.
I started playing music in 1975 because a young girl that I was in love with in Hawaii said I stunk on the guitar when I picked it up. And I had a point to prove.
Yeah.
My little ego couldn't take it. So I picked up my brother's guitar, and I wanted to, I'm left-handed, and he wouldn't let me change the strings, so I had to learn how to play right-handed. And I found out that I could make chords and noises that people seem to like and enjoy, and that further fed the fire in me. I've always had a deep love for music. I grew up, I'm the youngest of 8 children, so I grew up with 6 surviving older brothers and sisters that listened to a variety of music, from Fats Domino to Led Zeppelin to Merle Haggard, you know. And it taught me how to have an appreciation for all different kinds of genres. And in that, right, something was planted in me that, you know, all the people that are creating this, right, are worthy too. So I just felt good, like Bill said, when I had my guitar in my hand, it's my medicine. And I discovered that early on, that, you know what, when the things and the hurts and the pains, right, from my childhood reared their heads, that I could pick up my guitar and get off by myself and I could heal. And it's pretty much been that way all along. In the late 1970s, early 1980s, I decided that I was going to play around with meth and heroin and things like that. And I wound up in a situation spun out of my mind that I participated in a murder that ultimately I wound up in prison for 34 and a half years, you know. And like you said, I can't sit here and, you know, look, I got exactly what I deserved, and then acted like a fool when I came to prison because I had no hope. When I was able to get my hands back on a guitar and play again in the 1990s, after years of being in prison, I rediscovered that ability to not only make myself feel better, but make others feel better around me when they heard what it was I'm playing. I'm not telling you that I'm all that in a bag of chips. I'm not. But the fact of the matter is there, each one of us has a gift that I believe that we're allowed to emote And when we do that freely, then it draws people. It allows them to come into our space and have a piece of the healing. And I like that a lot. This group right here was originally formed in 2014.
2014, I think, is that.
I got to Quentin in 2013. After 25 years in level 4s on killing fields, I got to somewhere where I could actually stop and look around and breathe. And they threw me in the cell with this guy right here. He's not
with
here.
Joey.
Joey.
I feel sorry for you, Joey.
And we suffered each other for about 3 years, right? Yeah. Hey, don't make it worse, Joe. Don't make it weird.
Secrets will remain behind.
Well, yeah. What happens in Quentin stays in Quentin, Joe. The thing is that, you know what, there were a lot of lessons in the early times in San Quentin that were painful for me, because I recognize a sense of exclusionism in people while they were professing a desire to be free. There were people that were allowed to do things that precluded other people from doing the same thing because they were threatened by. And so I just decided, if we can't get into the music room, right, we'll create our own music. So I got together with Dwight and Alan Brown.
Alan Brown, bless his heart, he's still there.
He's still there.
He's still
in the COVID situation in San Quentin. Hey, Alan.
Yes, if you see us, Alan, we love you.
We love you, bud. We ain't forgot. Joe Thurston, we haven't forgot. At any rate, it was an amazing thing, because I went into the cell with somebody that was in the cell playing guitar and writing music, and we wrote a number of songs together and had some fun, man. And then I just decided that, you know what, I gotta play with a group. So I got together with Dwight and Alan, and we began to basically do a skiffle group on the yard, down in front of the brick wall. And over a period of time, as I was introducing them to these songs, we got fairly good at it, so they asked us to begin to perform, and then that became a fairly regular thing, to the point, ultimately, that even after Alan had left the group, right, and there were so many people, including Joe, had transitioned and in and out, we were given an opportunity, presented with an opportunity through podcast Ear Hustle that originates from San Quentin, to do a piece for the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York.
We sure did.
And what a rush. What a rush. We're in prison. We're all lifers. And we're being presented with this opportunity. This is what I'm talking about. I don't believe in coincidence. I don't believe that us sitting here talking to each other is a coincidence. I don't. This is an issue of human connection. But when I got to finally see the video, which we watched again recently, I was no less stunned by the beauty of what they did. And I've never been a big fan of dance and all that, but my goodness, they did a great job. And I want to give them kudos for that. But these are the opportunities that presented themselves. And I'll end with this: is the whole point. It's never been about us. It has never been about us. We may be at the hub, but this is not about us. Though it's healing us, it's about what we can do for others in relation to the gifts that we're given. It's as simple as that.
Nicely said, Richie.
Yeah.
And I'm out.
Yeah.
Hey, that's good.
What
You
is
like
that, Joe? What is that?
Lobster claw.
It's theater. It's theater thing.
Oh, theater. Theater.
As you would know about theater, Richie
Theater.
also did Shakespeare as well. I was rehearsing lines in the cell, and he was my he was helping me, and then he kind of got the bug and started doing theater too. I mean, this guy's amazing.
Still working with him.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So one question I had, well, probably several coming, but how did the administration of San Quentin decide to release the music room, or how did that transition happen? Like, you guys started to do all this improv together, and then how did that happen when where they started to support you more? Was it through?
I'd like to take that. There is a music program in San Quentin that was part of the recreation and also part of the arts and corrections program. It was kind of exclusive. You had to really know how to play, and it wasn't a teaching program, and you had to work your way into one of the bands that existed in their style of music. And what we wanted to do, I was involved in a funk band, I was involved in a jazz band, so I was playing those styles and had a ball doing it. But as Quentin Blue, it was all original music. So we asked and pleaded for the longest time to try to get a slot in the schedule of the band room, and that never happened. So one of the things in prison that you learn how to do is you learn how to turn a no into your own version of yes. And there are the buckets. So we ended up, which they allow us to have at the time to do laundry in the cell and stuff. So we would carry our buckets out and our guitars, and we'd go sit on the yard. We'd find a place that was somewhat quiet. We'd flip the buckets upside down, sit on them, and play. And the music evolved because of passion, because of what we were wanting to do in that style, in that vein, in that collaboration. So that's the music. And Richie was at the core of a lot of the lyric and a lot of the songs and a lot of the lead vocal and the guitar parts, and would come with a pretty fleshed out skeleton of a song, and then we would add the rhythm, or I would add the bass, and Joey was playing with us, he would add the guitar, and Billy would add keyboards, and we'd evolve this thing, and eventually you do that long enough and you end up with a set of songs. Then the administration would notice us, in large part through the woman who was running the music program, and Rafaela, and she would say, well, we have a gig, but none of the bands in the program are ready to do it. Do you guys want to do this? They're in the band room practicing and not ready, and we're on the yard sitting on buckets trying to make this thing go, and we're getting asked to go play. So we would play for graduations. We played for Marin Shakespeare. They would have a yard show. I think one of the biggest things we did before Richie paroled and ultimately COVID shut down everything at San Quentin was to help organize and produce and play in a concert for Death Row.
Oh, yeah.
So
That
Death Row,
was-
is at San Quentin.
I loved that show.
And it was filmed
Did I?
and it was edited and it was shown on the prison channel. And the whole idea was, guys that are in death row, they're not going anywhere. That's pretty much where they're going to live the rest of their lives because of the courts. And some people have done things heinous enough to absolutely need to be there. But on the other side, what Richie was mentioning is they're human beings too. They're children of God. They are spirit. They have a soul. They have a life.
Beings.
They are human beings.
You walk the yard or any part of the prison, and you can see the top of North Block and the top of
All of what East Block.
East Block, and they're there, and that's where they're going to be 24/7.
So
And
Richie,
that's where COVID started to take its heavy toll.
and Richie and another fella came up with the idea and said, "What if we produced a concert?" So that was a big one for us, and we had pretty much all prison talent, with a few exceptions. There was some people that came in from the outside and played. It was filmed and it was shown, and it was basically to say, "We see you. We know you're there, and we know sometimes why you're there, but we're sending good energy your way. We're sending care and respect and try to make something of your lives, and here's a little support because you never get it." And
And
that
that-
was really big for us.
That was
too.
also facilitated with the great efforts of Lisa Starburst.
Lisa at
Yeah.
Bread and Roses.
Bread and
Yeah,
Red and Roses.
sure.
Wonderful.
Bread and
program.
Roses presents
Lieutenant.
Sam Robinson.
Sam Robinson.
Lieutenant Sam Robinson was big there too. So there were some key people that in the administration that were supportive as best they could be, because it's always about safety and security seems to trump everything, and no is the easiest way to handle any kind of situation from the
Or I'll get
administration.
back to you.
Oh, I'll get back to you.
Don't forget that one.
Oh, I'll get back to you.
I'll take it under advisement.
You guys, I just want to bring this up because this was really phenomenal. Talking about getting the support, you know, we had gone to Father George. He was in charge of the Catholic chapel,
Yeah.
and they did away. We were talking about the politics in the band room. They did away with the blues band, and the blues band had been on that yard for like, I don't know, 50, 60 years, a long time. They did away with it. So I went to Father and I said, could we possibly put together a blues concert in
Yeah,
the
I remember that
chapel?
too.
And he was like, and thank God for Dwight. Dwight said, well, why don't we tie it into some kind of we'll make it kind of like this blues concert will be like a spiritual event of some sort. So we made up
Well, you have to do
flyers.
something.
We had to do flyers and all this and that. And so Father was so supportive. He's like, pick a date. So we picked January 7th of 2018. Yeah,
I think it was, yeah.
2018.
I think so, yeah.
And so I went around and we picked like the best blues guys we could find. Richie, Dwight, Michael Adams. We had just a beautiful group of men, and there was 4 of us that participated in singing different songs. And then what was so awesome that I'll never forget is everybody supported whoever was lead singing. Everybody else supported with background vocals.
Yeah.
And we didn't even rehearse this. We didn't really rehearse anything because we all have grown up with the blues. But I got goosebumps thinking about it. And then the other part I want to add to Sam Robinson's credit is he let us record it. And I actually have the recording. That's the only recording I've ever been able to get outside of a prison of work that I had done or that we have done, because we talked to it about with our family on that 15-minute phone call. Hey, yeah, we did this concert and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, okay. You know, they don't really get it because they don't get to hear what we play, you know, for the most part. Yeah. So anyway, I'm done talking. I just had to throw that in there. Thank you.
So there were these little musical highlights that happened throughout the years, and great gratitude, you know, just being able to do that, considering where we were and why we were there and the time we were supposed to serve, because all of us were lifers. All of us were given a life sentence, and by the grace of God, we're sitting here before you, and this is big, because for a long time lifers were going nowhere. No. So one of the commitments, if I can speak on behalf of, I know these guys and Joey, is that we're here to prove that positive change is possible. And whenever any of us paroled, the guys that were left behind would say, you better be a good ambassador and show the people on the street, you know, that you're not some knuckle dragging thug that just got out of prison, and perpetuate that stereotype that we're not the worst thing we've ever done. We're not the worst decision we've ever made. And that's the guts to a lot of the songs that we do. There's a person, there's a place, there's a time attached. There's a reason for every single one of the songs that we collaborate on. And I think it's important that people know that this is, there's more to this than just, hey, a bunch of guys wanting to play. There's a reason for this, and hopefully in some way we can break that stereotype of guys having been in prison and show that we're human beings. This is who we are, and we're going to try to contribute through our art.
So just a follow up on that, how long did you have any idea that you were on that track to be paroled, or did it come as a surprise for you or anything?
I went to board 3 times. I know people that have gone 19, 20 times.
Yeah.
Right. Guys that had 7 to life and did 45 years on it, you know, yeah. Which frankly baffles me. It really does, you know. There comes a certain point when, in reality, incarceration becomes a dead issue in terms of the individual. I was either going to turn my life around, or I was going to continue on the path of destruction, and I was going to die. That's as simple as that. Bottom line, that's the direction that I was going. There was a point when my father died in 2002, 2003, that I just decided that the person that I was seeing in the mirror was not the person that I wanted to see in the mirror anymore. If that makes any sense. And in order for that to happen, in order for me to change my circumstance, I knew that I had to change the way that I thought. And I know I say that a lot, but it was my thinking, my messed up thinking, that was getting me into the situation I was at. My devaluing people and, putting myself in a position where, you know what, I'm going to hurt you before you get a chance to hurt me.
Yeah.
Right. And just coming to understand that everybody's space matters. Right. Talking about the music, getting involved with the music, whether it was in level 4 and the opportunities that happened in level 4, and there were some amazing ones, right? All the way down to the level 2 at San Quentin. I watched the changes around me happening, right, for a long time without really recognizing that I was changing myself, that I was becoming more mature. I was becoming, and Lord knows there's still a great deal of work to be done. I think that we're in a constant state of change. We're in a constant state of growth, But when I interposed the music back into my life, it surrounded me with people that wanted something more than just to stick a needle in their arm or make a batch of homemade whiskey and get drunk in a cell and act like a fool.
Yeah.
There was a calmness in me that yearned for something better than what I had. I got out of prison 6 months and 7 months before these guys. I made him a promise that when he got out that we would have a studio, right? Told him that he was coming home, right? I really did.
Didn't believe it.
Yeah, well, in my spirit, I knew it, right?
It's hard to believe.
We're watching now as time passes, and for me, it's only been a year and 5 months, but there are still brothers that are languishing, right?
Yeah.
In the midst of this COVID thing, and I've got to bring this up, right? That by all rights should be home.
It's almost like a survivor's guilt, if you will. You look back.
It's that separation anxiety.
I mean, I think about some of the great guys that are there, and they're there because stuff happened. Decisions were made, lifestyle was lived. But and I think things are changing to a point where it was just recently announced something like over 70,000 inmates in the state of California were going to be given provision to earn their way out. I know there's an uproar of people looking at misreading or misunderstanding what that really means. But what it means is, in a word, hope. At San Quentin, we had a lot of programs that you could get involved, whether it was sports or whether it was spirituality or religion or whether it was college, music, all of the above, NA, AA, introspection kind of things, self-inquiry. And that changes people, that opportunity to look inside and say, hey, this is who I was. I'm going to take responsibility for that. I know that we all participated, and Joey and I were long-term members of the Restorative Justice Program for years at San Quentin. And that's about acknowledging the harms that we caused and who we caused them to, and trying to hold a space so that healing might be possible. And that's a big experience that we have gained through our prison experience. I treasure that because I would have never seen it otherwise. I would have never seen that. I was all about entitlement, about me, about what I could get out of life. And I was a professional. I had companies, and I was an executive in the home video business, but had no clue about connection to people around me. But that connection still exists because those guys are still there. And they're just now coming off of a year's worth of literal lockdown because of COVID, and the administration saying, oh, well, let's just lock them up. They'll be okay. Just feed them in the cell. It doesn't matter if it's cold food or it's crappy food or whatever. I mean, that's horrible, horrible existence. So that's kind of where the compassion comes from, and the empathy, and the sort of what I mentioned earlier, like survivor's guilt, because it's tough. It's tough for us, as grateful as we are to be here and to be doing what we're doing. We still got to look back. We're still connected. It hasn't been that long. So whatever we can do, I think all three of us are committed. I know Joey is in his position with working with the youth to help prevent them from going to prison in the first place. The at-risk youth. We're all committed to seeing what kind of change we can bring about and support. You know, there's a lot of advocacy work to be done. There's a lot of experience to be shared.
So I have a question. It's you mentioned how the music certainly was quite healing for yourselves and others while you were in prison, and that it's been such a great vehicle as you're out of prison now, for you to continue doing the music. I guess I'm curious if you're willing to talk about your relationships with your family members, and if music has provided also a way for you to connect with them, if those relationships were strained or had even been disrupted by your sentences.
Unfortunately, during my incarceration, my entire family passed away.
Mm.
So the quick answer to that is no. But my father was I have no memories of my father being a warm and fuzzy, sit in the lap, oh, good boy, right? It just wasn't who that guy was. But we shared a love of music. And he played the tenor saxophone.
Nice.
Through World War II. And I would play organ or piano and back him up and play music with him. And when we shared music, it was an entirely different world. It was the closest I ever got to my dad. We lived on Catalina Island for quite a long time. And my father loved sport fishing. And he taught me everything he could teach me about boats and the ocean and sport fishing. And there was another place where the two of us bonded together. But the music was always a very special thing between the two of us. So it's funny when I think about it that, you know, people say, oh, you become your father. And it's certainly to the degree that I was in love with music and in love with my dad and love the ocean and love my dad, that's true. Would it have been the opportunity to be with my family again? I was loved and supported by all of them while they were alive during my incarceration, without question, ever. My brother, who passed just a couple of years ago, and only a year before I got out, never faltered, never faltered. I admit my guilt. They all understood my guilt, but I never had a strained moment with them. And the regret that I have is, someone asked me the other day about getting a hug when you step out the gate because your family is there to pick you up. And yeah, that hurts me because it would have been my brother. My brother was a fantastic artist. He drew and he painted. And after a couple of years in prison, the whole time he would send me, photograph his works, and then he would write me letters. And through the capabilities of Word, you can insert pictures and do all kinds of magical stuff. So I would receive these letters with these little images of his paintings, watercolors. We lived on the island. We lived in Encinitas and along the beach. So it was all landscapes of things that, you know, that I was so familiar with, and it just brought home to me. But I started to notice down in the lower right corner where his signature was, there were these 6 little stripes with a little couple of dots on 2 of them. And I asked him on a phone call one day, I go, what is this thing that you're putting on the pictures? He goes, that's you. You. And it was his representation of me hanging on my cell bars. You know, he said, and as long as I'm alive and paint, you're going to be there.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. So I have wonderful, lovely memories, but I have a new family. Here we are.
Such as it is.
Yeah, it helps.
Like I said, though, I would never have been able to have gotten through it without it, because it gave me the opportunity to be introspective, because you can get your distance with it. And through the writing of music and the metaphor that you try to use to visit things, and through meditation practice that I learned how to do, I had a lot of things revealed to me. And some issues in my life where I would not be able to speak about them, really, certainly in casual context.
Sure.
But could write about them in metaphor and write them into a song. And when I would visit one of these songs, I would know what I was trying to touch. And so, yeah, there's a sanity that comes from being able to practice music and express yourself that way. You know, the old saw.
Yeah.
Music soothes a savage beast. Absolutely present in prison.
Sure. Yeah, I know you got some stories, Richie, on family. Woo, my brother.
Yeah, he's Bill's talking about his family passing. I came from a very, very large family on both sides. My mother was the youngest of 8 children. My father was the oldest of 8 children. So there were lots of cousins and nephews and nieces and aunts and uncles and grandparents. And, you know, we had a big clan, you know, we're a big family. And I lost 56 of them during the time that I was in. There are absolutely holes in my life as a result of that nobody else is ever going to be able to fill those spots. So much, you know, so it's an issue now of being able to not only begin to make amends, not only begin, but continue to make amends, not only with myself for my past without being flippant, right? But to understand that, you know what, we all got warts. We all got warts.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, mine might be a little more public than yours, right? But the fact of the matter is we're in the middle of the human condition. And what this does, and I come back to this again, is it allows me to, with the things that I experienced on the level 4s, and Joey, you were on level 4 for a little while, very briefly,
Yeah.
but I was there 25 years, and of my 34 and a half years in prison. I gotta get that 6 months in.
You do? Any minutes?
Get it.
Yeah.
Hey, you
rounding.
earned it, buddy. You earned it.
I don't know if it's an issue of entitlement, Joe. I don't, but you know what? I would be a lesser person without the experience. I know that.
Wow.
I would be a lesser person without the people that have been added to my life as a result of enduring. I tell you honestly, there were days and times that it would have been very easy to go and just step off the 5th tier into eternity. A lot of guys there at San Quentin and other prisons chose that option, right? And they were talking about the concert for death row. This was part of my thinking in this, right? Is the best thing that ever happened to me in my life was hope. When I rediscovered that, you know what, look, I don't have to stay in my trash. I can choose to get out of it. You know what I mean? Clean myself off, basically get the stink off of me, which I'd gotten used to. It kind of became like a familiar friend. And you're right, I got a lot of stories. I don't know how much time we got here, but I will relate one thing to you, if I may. I went to the Hole, which is the high security unit in Folsom Prison.
It's jail in jail.
It's jail in jail. Okay, in 1985.
Naughty.
For an assault on another inmate. And so I was put back in administrative segregation in the back of one building in Old Folsom with what were known as the Aryan Brotherhood. I didn't know anything about these people. I was green as a leaf. I had no idea, right? No idea. And I know you probably may or may not have heard stories about them, but they were the white authority within the inmates on that yard. It's true.
Yeah.
I sat down to play dominoes 2 times when I was there, and both times I think we were winning too. My domino partner got stabbed in the throat, right in front of me. I had never seen anything like this other than my own assault. I'd never witnessed it right like this. And after that, I would go and ask people to play dominoes. They'd look around and then wonder, okay, what did I do? No. I never played another game of dominoes when I was back there in the hole. Oh, I know. Yeah. So I went and learned how to play basketball. I had to do something.
Yeah.
But it's just those kind of experiences that are so visceral, and I can look at them with kind of a sense of humor that wasn't present at the moment it was happening.
That's that gallows humor.
And understand that, you know what, there was something, you can call it whatever you want. I call it God, had his hand on me the whole time that I was there. Because when other men that were much bigger and stronger and smarter than I was, I believe, didn't make it that far and got cut down right in the middle of their youth, right? I survived. And I'm not haughty about that, and I don't mean to be. I look at that with serious perspective, because a lot of people didn't make it. A lot of people didn't make it, whether it was through violence or it was through breakouts of diseases like COVID, or that plague that hit when they started building that building over in San Quentin.
Valley fever.
Legionnaires' disease.
What was it?
Legionella.
Oh yeah,
Legionella.
They start digging up this 70-year-old dirt, and the dust is up in the air. It's not wet, and everybody's breathing this in, and all of a sudden they got a Legionnaires episode going on. Very bizarre, very, very bizarre situation, right? A lot of people don't ever get an opportunity to even hear this or see this. But we've come through a freaking battlefield. I'm going to call it like it is, right? We've come off the battlefield and back into the free world with a message that says there is hope.
Yeah.
And there's hope, and it's time for us as a people to heal. There's only one race, and that's a human race. That's my estimation. Different branches of the family, only one race. And we need to get our heads out of it, right? And understand that if we don't work together as a unit, we're all going to burn together, and that ain't cool.
No.
We got things to do. We're an amazing species. Why don't we just do what we're meant to do? So that's why we play music.
That's right. That's right.
Well, on that note, would you like to play something for us?
Can you guys hear me?
We could do that. We might have already done that.
We could throw a little music down here.
Hey, I can tell you right now, these 3 have probably practiced more than they have since they've been out just for this day. I could just
we worked
believe
hard.
Oh.
I can believe that.
Oh.
I know you
We worked
too.
hard.
I know you guys too well.
Well, we got a couple of new songs coming up. One that I wrote called "The Things That We Leave Behind," and one that Richie wrote called
I know this. Hang on. Oh, I Can't Stop the Rain.
Can't Stop the Rain. And we had a little opportunity to work on this stuff and with full production and instruments, but we can give you a cut down
Give us a little bit of.
This is the cut down version.
Yeah,
This is the
cut down version.
spontaneous.
That'd be cool.
Cue it up. Cue it up.
Cue it up.
Sounds good.
Are we ready for this drummer here? Yeah. Here we go. Oh, wait a minute. Where are they? There's that drummer.
I don't know.
Breaks over, drummer.
My
Get in.
gum is wearing out.
Here we go. Wait a minute. Come on. 2, 3.
glass house where you grew up pretty much still looks the same, right down to the pink mailbox. Thinking back lately, about how things might have been. When we were kids, we owned the streets in this old neighborhood. Looking for fun was all we did, and we found it where we could. Thinking back lately, do you ever think of me? These are the things we leave behind, little pieces of who we were, wrapped in time. These are the things we leave behind. By the creek, said I loved you and you just laughed and kissed me on the cheek. Said I was crazy, that's why I was your best friend. Took a while for me to figure out the meaning of what you said. Inside my head every night as I lay in bed, and it hit me. You were afraid to change again. You were afraid to lose your best friend. And who can say how young love is? The things we leave behind. Back upon our younger days, life goes in circles in so many ways. You have to wait till stories told, so we can see just how our lives unfold. These are the things we leave behind, frozen pieces trapped in time. We can't reach back, we can't change them, or try to rearrange them. They are the markers and the signs of the way we lived our lives. They tell a story we may treasure, or they're just a sad reminder of the dreams we failed to try, or the plans we let slip by. We never knew how things would turn out, or how our lives would work out. These are the things we leave behind, little pieces of who we were, trapped in time. These are the things we leave behind. Walk down Cherrywood Lane, pretty much still looks the same. Took a walk down Cherrywood Lane, pretty much still looks the same. Took a walk down Cherrywood Lane, still looks the same.
went to Vincent Savage Day. I can't stop the rain, it's out of my hands. Kinda like the way you lie, I still can't understand. If I walk 1,000 miles, the questions would remain. You're there and I'm here, I can't stop the rain. Muddy memories come calling, warm recordings that won't play. Wishing that I know I might be better out today. We all make our choices, sleep in the beds we made. You listen to the other voices, gave us away for the sake. And I can't stop the rain, it's out of my hands. Kinda like the way you lie, still can't understand. If I walk 1,000 miles, the questions would remain. You're there and I'm here, and I can't stop the rain. I can't stop the rain. No, 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 I can't stop the rain. It's out of my hands. Kinda like the way you lie, I still can't understand. If I walk 1,000 miles, the questions would remain. You're there and I'm here. You're there and I'm here, and I can't stop the rain. I can't stop the rain.
Well, we hope you
Well, that
liked
was just wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing
You're
that.
welcome.
You know, we
You're
want to thank
welcome.
you, ladies. Joey,
Joey,
you look
thank you.
marvelous. Marvelous.
Oh, well,
Marvelous.
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
movie star good looks there, buddy.
I want to say that we're really honored to be able to tell the story, to be able to share the music, to be able to break the stereotype, to be able to reach out and say, you know what, life is good and it can be better, and we're here to contribute. So
Man, I'm living next to a 7-Eleven. It don't get any better than
it
that.
does
man.
not, huh? You right next door.
It's like going down to,
That's the
it's like going
American
down
way.
to shop at the canteen in prison. And if you'd like to listen to more of our music, we have a lot of cuts available up on our website, QuentinBlue.com.
QuentinBlue.com.
Yes, Quentin
Yes.
Blue. One word, QuentinBlue.com.
Quentin Blue.
What is Quentin Blue anyway?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have it. Quentin
Cool as you're gonna
Blue
get.
is actually a color, and it's
Yeah.
very close to the color of the blues that they made us wear in prison.
That was, except when we went out on transport.
Then we wore bright orange
Yeah, paper suit.
or red paper, clear paper suits. They were terrible.
There's a whole bunch of stories to tell.
Don't get him started.
Thank
That's
you,
a story
Margie.
for
Thank you,
next time.
Kristen.
So much, ladies.
Thank you,
Thank
Joey.
you,
We love you.
guys.
We
That
love
was
you. Really
fantastic.
appreciate it being here.